What's up, guys? Mr. Knows Hoops back today with another video. And before getting into the topic of today's conversation, which are the top 10 small forwards in the league today, I just want to thank you guys for all your support. The last video got some traction for us subscriber-wise and just views-wise. I just wanted to really thank you guys, as always, for your love and support. And don't forget to leave a like, comment, subscribe. Now, again, this is the third out of our 5 videos of the top 10 players by position. Just a reminder in terms of criteria. I mean, I think it's a pretty solid mix for me. It's stats, because obviously you have to look at those, but if we went off just stats, certain players that we know and love would be a lot lower or not even on the list, because then you sit there and you would go, well, did the stats really tell you a whole lot? Eye test, because obviously we have to go off what we're seeing in combination with stats or other things to be able to tell us what could be causing certain stats or certain things. And then finally, obviously, we have to take into account what they're doing this year versus recently. And obviously, we're not taking their career into it. Because at that point, even if you did a top 10 list, LeBron James would still be number one because his career is just better than anybody in the league. At this point, I just wanted to also say that this position was extremely difficult for a number 10, because I really don't think there's a certain guy who has far and away set himself to a standard or to a level that anyone else can hold up to. So that's the one thing I will also say. I don't really have an honorable mention for this position. Maybe you guys have somebody that I haven't thought of to bring into mind. But as always, guys, this is Mr. Knows Hoops. But today we're going to be discussing the top 10 small forwards. I don't really, again, have an honorable mention. Don't forget to join the Discord that me and Dream Hoops have. We're in there all the time. Follow me on Discord, or not on Discord, sorry, on Twitter and TikTok, Mr. Knows Hoops as well. And now let's get into the number 10 spot of the small forward list. And that for me is going to be a Milwaukee Buck, Khris Middleton. Now, Khris Middleton is a particularly odd player to pick when we're discussing this position, because obviously he was hurt. However, I believe that Khris Middleton showed you in that playoff series against Miami that he is still a very good basketball player. Now, again, he's 10th at this position. So this is not me saying that he's like going to skyrocket up. At this point in his career, he's probably around where he's going to be. He might slip up to number 9 depending on how the guy above him plays and vice versa. So to me, what Khris Middleton provides you on both ends of the floor is just so valuable that, especially to a team like the Bucks, you have to try and re-sign him, especially since he just declined his player option. So for me, I think Khris Middleton is sort of the baseline, like the guy that if anyone knew, or someone I just obviously forgot were to make this list, he would be their gatekeeper right now. So to me, Khris Middleton is sort of the standard for this position. And for me, I don't really quite think there's anybody else that I would feel comfortable with giving the spot to. Again, you guys let me know down in the comments if there's someone that I'm forgetting about. And if I am, I would love to look into that and then see if Khris Middleton is actually better than said player or if I'm wrong. But that's what I love about this channel, is that you guys are willing to talk to me about things and we're willing to learn. And now going into number 9, I have Andrew Wiggins. Wiggins is someone that has a similar issue to Khris Middleton this year, and that they missed a lot of time. And when we saw Wiggins come back offensively, I don't quite think he was the same. But I also for sure think that he will be better going into the next season. It's not all projection, obviously, because again, young player at that point would rank way higher. But to me, what Andrew Wiggins is giving you on both ends of the floor is just so valuable that I think him being below Khris at this point would be a little unfair to what Wiggins has given to you as a player. And I think towards the end of, especially more so the Lakers series, we saw Wiggins start to get back into his groove offensively. And I have no reason to believe that that will not continue going into the next season. So for me, the reason I took him over Middleton is I just think he's a better two-way player at this point than Middleton, especially defensively. I think he's just better than Middleton at this point defensively, especially since Middleton's injuries. He's just not been the same as a player in terms of defensive effort. So for me, I think Wiggins taking the 9 spot here is pretty comfortable. But now coming in at number 8, is someone who has done this channel a lot of success. And somebody that I think is going to continue to grow, and that is Mikal Bridges. Now, I've discussed this before on the channel of what I think his ceiling is. You guys can check out that video as well. But I genuinely believe Mikal Bridges' ceiling is like a souped-up Khris Middleton. Because I think he's a better defender than Middleton ever was. Even when Middleton was good, I just think Mikal's better. And I think we have seen his offensive game start to become unlocked. And I really, really hope next season Mikal can continue to show this. And that is why I have him at 8, though, because, again, if we went off projection and saying that he will maintain this level, because I think he actually played very well in his series against the Sixers. They were just outmatched as a team. Mikal, to me, is showing a lot of signs of true potential of being this really, really great small forward. And I am loving every second of it, but I don't think he has enough right now to elevate him higher on a list for me. So for me, I think Mikal Bridges at number 7 is extremely, extremely comfortable. And I love that for Mikal because I think he can really elevate himself to even that top 6. Because to me, the top 5 right now are pretty locked in. It would take a dramatic decrease for one of those players for Mikal to just be something different. Coming in now, I have my own Chicago Bull, Demar Derozan. DeRozan at this point for me he has a similar issue to Zach LaVine, except not quite to the same extent. He's a far better playmaker. Like, he can do other things that Zach LaVine just can't do. But it's similar in that, but when I need him the most, he is a scorer. But when I need him the most in the playoffs, he can't really do that. And then the other issue for me is, as good as DeMar DeRozan is that we've already seen the ceiling. His best season of his career was last year. Not as in this completed season, but obviously, the first year on the Bulls. At this point, I'm the Bulls. We're trying to trade DeRozan, please, and let's try and rebuild. But I think what DeRozan gives a lot of teams, I think, is also undervalued. He's a very odd player because I think he's very good, but I think he's over and underrated. Like, his run with the Bulls, I think, is overrated in terms of how good he could be on some of these other teams. But I think people also underrate him and try and act like he doesn't hold any value whatsoever. And I just think that's untrue. I think if you're a good enough team with DeMar and he's not your number 1, like a legitimate number 2 to 3, which I don't think he's ever had the opportunity to be in his career, I really think he would look even better. But now coming in at number 6 is going to be one of my favorite players in the league, Brandon Ingram. Now, Brandon Ingram to me is over someone like DeRozan, and this is why I'm saying stats alone don't mean everything. Because obviously, if you look at the stats, right, the point per game is going to tell you it's DeMar DeRozan. But to me, Brandon Ingram is so freaking good. Now, to me, he has the defensive liability issues. I do think he needs to continue to get better at that. But the scoring at all 3 levels is incredible. The playmaking is extremely underrated. And whether it be the playoffs a couple years ago, the playing game he did have against the Thunder, Brandon Ingram is going to show up for this team when they need him the most. But the things that hold me back, he still has an injury issue. Right? He has been getting hurt quite a lot. And when he does get hurt, they're not like, oh, okay, he'll miss 5-10 games. He's missed like 20-30 games at a chunk. You can't really be having that. And for me to put a guy over you. But then again, it's what I'm seeing. And what I'm saying is that Brandon Ingram has a lot of potential to really, really, really move up and be something better. Now, number 5 is where things get controversial, but this is where I think there's a gap between the rest of the list. Jayson Tatum for me is number 5. Tatum, to me, is a very good player who a lot of people fall in love with the idea of what he could be versus what he actually is at this moment. As an offensive player, we have seen him consistently improve. But to me, I think the one thing that has yet to grow with him enough is consistency. And the thing is, I'm not very high on him. I think he's a good passer playmaker. Like, he's a good player, right? A good passer, for sure. But I don't really think it's moving me enough to when, for example, in that Philadelphia series, that man was not scoring in those first 3 quarters, in 2 or 3 of those games. And in 2 of those games, that man was not giving you a whole lot else. At moments, he'll give you the defense, absolutely. But it's not always. And even if he does, he's a part of a really good team defense. Obviously, every player is going to look better with a certain team defense. But my point is that there's clearly a limit to me in where Jayson Tatum is going. But I do think he can get higher if he really maximizes the potential. And I think he just needs to get his shot diet better. And now, coming in at number 4 is Jimmy Butler. Now, I have been on this train actually since last year and even the bubble. My thing is that to me, Jimmy is probably in the same tier as Tatum as a passer or playmaker. I think Jimmy's a little bit better. I think Jimmy's the better defender. And the issue is that Tatum is the better regular season scorer, absolutely. But the issue is that he then falls while Jimmy rises. So at that point, I'm going to value the guy who is rising in the playoffs. And to be 100% honest with you, I think Tatum is a better scorer. But I don't think the gap's as big as what I think it is on defense. We have seen time and time again Jimmy Butler be the guy defensively to help get a stop. Whether it was the Bucks series. Against Boston, he had huge turnovers he created against Tatum. Like, we have seen Jimmy Butler have these big moments. But to me, it's funny, I had originally done this list. And these two guys initially were over my number 3. But the more I thought about it, they're both too inconsistent at times for me to do. So I've got to go with number 3, the tried staple LeBron James. Now, I do think LeBron can be surpassed by Jimmy and Tatum in the upcoming season. I think LeBron's spot as a top 10 player is no longer locked. I think we would be lying to ourselves if some of that does not have to do with the name value of LeBron James. Again, he is playing very well, but he's been hurt with the Lakers every year except the bubble year. Every year. And it has impacted his scoring, and in ways has impacted the playmaking. It impacts his first step. It impacts him as a player, but it keeps consistently happening. We see him settling for threes more. We see him not be as aggressive at the rim. And he has moments where he is, for sure. But for example, we saw in the Grizzlies series at times, he would get extremely tired from the offensive load that he would have to carry. So to me, LeBron's clear age catching up to him, father time has finally tapped him on the shoulder. To me, LeBron is still the third best small forward in basketball. But I do think there's a chance that he might lose that spot. But for me right now, the top 3 are a little bit ahead of the 4 and 5 spot, but they're all over the 6 and below. Next, I have Kevin Durant at 2. KD is a very odd player for me at this point, because at some point we have to acknowledge the playoff drop is just going to be what KD is. Ever since 2021, when they got, to me, and what I have discussed, is that playoff rising, crazy KD. He's still on the line out there against the Bucks, because ever since then he's just not been the same. And yes, like numbers wise he's been good, but when you're watching the games it just doesn't feel the same. But the thing is, it's just that he's doing it so much better than these other guys. Again, like I talked about, LeBron just looks worse than he used to be. Jimmy and Tatum are too inconsistent, so I can't really move KD down when I see that nobody else has really done enough for me to sit there and go, they deserve to rise over him. I have no reason to believe that. So for me, KD is number 2 over LeBron. And I think, though, this is no longer that controversial at this point in their respective careers, just because of where LeBron is at. However, I will say my number 1 is going to for sure get people upset. And for me, the number 1 small forward in the league is Kawhi Leonard. Now, I understand the health thing for sure. I get that. But here's the issue. KD's been hurt a bunch. LeBron's been hurt a bunch. So neither of those two guys can necessarily just get away with going, okay, well, they're healthier. Relatively sure, but neither of them are playing 82 games. Kawhi's actually played more games than KD. So where I get confused is why can't Kawhi be the best? Because when he's actually played, he's looked the best of the 3 on both ends. Now, LeBron's obviously the better playmaker of the 3 for sure. But I think KD and Kawhi are better scorers. And then Kawhi is just clearly the best defender of the 3. So to me, when you take the all-around package, Kawhi Leonard is the best small forward in basketball. I have no reason to believe otherwise. And I know that's a hot take, but I really got to know what you guys think about that. Do you agree or disagree that Kawhi is the best small forward in basketball? And if he's not, I'm assuming it's either my number 2 or 3. And if it's anybody else, I think you're extremely hyper-valuing something that they are, or you're just a fan of their team, which is also perfectly okay. But as always, guys, this is Amsterdam Knows Hoops. I want to know what you guys think. So, again, just for a recap, at number 10, I had Khris Middleton. At number 9, I had Andrew Wiggins. At number 8, we had Mikal Bridges. Then we had Demar Derozan at 7. Brandon Ingram at 6. Jayson Tatum at 5. Jimmy Butler at 4. LeBron at 3. Kevin Durant at 2. And then the Claw himself, Kawhi Leonard at 1. To me, I think this was so weird because the gaps in the position by the number. So, like, to me, like, Khris is a little bit of a step below, like, a Wiggins and Mikal. And they're a little step for right now below a DeRozan, who's a step below Brandon Ingram, who then is significantly below the Tatum Jimmy tier, who are then below the LeBron, KD, Kawhi tier. So I want to know what you guys think. Do you agree and disagree with this list? If you could change it, what would you do? As always, leave a like, comment, subscribe, share the video, spread the love. As always, guys, this is Amsterdam Knows Hoops. You all have a blessed rest of your day. As always, guys, peace out.